Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for spending this time with me. Today, I have a very touchy subject that I'm going to be talking about. It's about religion. And for all my followers, all the people who watch this show, if you're a Christian, if you are a Muslim, if you are Buddhist, if you whatever you are, this isn't an attack on religion. This isn't an attack on people who have religion as their culture. This is not an attack on religion as it is supposed to be properly interpreted, as it is supposed to be properly used, as it is supposed to be properly put into perspective. What this is, however, or what I intend to make this, however, is an admonition on what has occurred in this country with a sect within Christianity, with a sect within the evangelicals that have really corrupted what this country is all about. To be clear, I am not a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not any of those things. I am simply a humanist. I'm simply a person who believes in humanity, who believe that all that we do is presented to us by what we do. Nothing more, nothing less. Most of my relatives are Christians. Some are Jewish. Some are Mormons. I have just about every stripe of religion, and to each one of them, I respect their ability. I respect their right to have whatever religion it is that they choose fit. However, when a religion starts to have a material effect on humanity, when a religion continues or has an effect on your politics or the politics of somebody else, when your religion starts to mess people up, then at that point in time, that becomes the business of us all. At that point in time, we must call them out, and after calling them out, ensure that their power is lost. We must ensure that they have no power. Right now, that isn't the case in America. Right now, the case in America is that we are a theocracy run by a minority. And that is something that Americans must mitigate without fear. Speaking out against the evils within the evangelical sect that is partially responsible for the destruction of this nation is not a bad thing, and it's not something that one should fear. It is something that one is responsible to do, assuming that you are a red-blooded American citizen who really cares about this country. We should not allow a minority of people, a minority of a particular religion, to grab hold of power, and not only grab hold of power, but ensure the destruction of anyone else who doesn't think like them. While I believe evangelicals, the sect that I'm talking about, have all the rights that I have, all the rights to do as they please, what they don't have is the right to make us all follow their tenets down the drain. So what is the program going to be called today? The title of the program today is, Here is Why a Large Sect of Evangelicals Are a Danger to America. And I do not say that lightly. A small sect of evangelicals, a danger to America. But before we get started, please do remember this is a call-in show. Telephone number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. I hope to hear from all of you, including evangelicals. I'd like to get a Trump-loving evangelicals online as well. I won't be rough, or anybody who knows this show knows that I deal with everybody with civility, whether I agree with you or not. So if you are a Trump-loving evangelical, the same respect that I give my mother, the same respect that I give my friends, is the same respect you have. I respect you. I would love to hear from you. 646-716-5812. And I'm going to get into the program a bit further, but something else. I want you to remember, folks, to share these programs. More than anything else, the way we are going to change minds in this country is for us to get programs like these into the feeds of people who don't necessarily or wouldn't necessarily listen to things like this, but a friend of theirs just kind of came upon it and decided to pass it on. So I'm asking you, pass us on. Share it. Not only share it through Facebook, share a link in your email, at the bottom of your email or something. Hey, check this out. This is what this makes sense to me. For those people who have duality in their lives, and most of us do, meaning we may be liberals and we have a lot of folks in our family that are conservatives, right wing, or maybe evangelicals or whatever, share it to them, because the mere fact that you're a family, a loved one, they will give you the opportunity by at least giving a little air to it because it came from a loved one. So folks, share these videos, share these programs. And another favor, go ahead and like the page Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies. Please go ahead and like the page Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies, as well as go ahead and follow Twitter handle Egberto Willies. Now here we go. Title of the show. Here is why a large sect of evangelicals are a danger to America. Yes, a danger to America. Subtitle: Evangelicals, the weaponization of religion. The weaponization of religion is what we have here, folks. There was a time when the church was, for the most part, a reliable moral compass. To be clear, the church has always had its problems and its institution. We don't have to discuss the Catholic Church and the problems they've had. We don't have to discuss the Mormon Church and the problems they've had. We don't have to discuss the Protestant churches and their different sects, the problems that they've had. There are many. Well, it's run by men. Of course, there are many. But it maintained, the church that is, maintained a useful sort of order for humanity. I grew up a Christian. I grew up a strong Christian. When I went to college, I also joined a very strict Christian Christian sect for about 3 to 4 months. And the good thing about that is within that 3 to 4 months, it forced me to read the entire New Testament. And in the process of reading the New Testament is when I realized that religion, while it's for some, religion was absolutely not for me. And I'll tell you a quick story before I get into the program. I remember being back at the University of Texas in Austin in the Ye days, during the time when the University of Texas had investments in South Africa. I remember in those days, South Africa was an apartheid country. And I went to my pastor of this church, because we would always be protesting on campus and asking the university to digress themselves from South Africa. It's an evil nation. It's suppressing people. It's oppressing people, etc., etc., etc. Well, I went to the pastor and he said, well, you know, Egberto, we don't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't do that? He said, well, we don't do that kind of protesting, etc. So I said, oh, you can't say that. Jesus, I mean, we are into Jesus. I mean, Jesus would never let this would never allow this. And I went into a diatribe with him about how can we be of Jesus and we're not doing these good things around the country. And the pastor calmly said, Egberto, do you know, not once did Jesus ever speak out against slavery. Well, you don't tell a West Indian, Caribbean, Latino black man that Jesus, this person that you're asking to worship, never spoke out about one of the things that has affected you the most. The history has affected you the most. You can't tell a person that just like that. Well, given the anal person that I am, I had to find and make sure that pastor was wrong. And in the process, I read the entire New Testament. I've forgotten most of it, of course, but the good parts I still remember. And unfortunately, the pastor was right. Now, you would have evangelicals and Christians and Baptists and all of them try to find some justification why when Jesus says render unto the master what's the master's, or when Jesus speaks about, when the Bible talks about slaves obey thy masters and all that kind of stuff in the Old Testament and elsewhere, somehow they will try to explain away that that's not the kind of slavery we're talking about, or they'll try to explain that away. Well, for those people who can accept that, I respect you. You can accept that and take it. I couldn't. At that point, I left religion. I became a humanist, and I continued the goodness that I learned from the religion that I practiced from the yay days that my parents had me doing religion till to this day. The only difference is I consider my religion humanism. That is, doing well for everything that moves each human being, irrespective of who they are, forward. Period. Punto final. Now, the reason I got into that little thing there is I want to make sure folks realize that in what I'm doing today, I do not have any animosity towards people of religion, but I have an admonition for those that are not the evangelical Christians that are promoting evil right now. Those other Christians, you have a responsibility. And that responsibility is to not allow these other people to hijack what is a good thing. A lot of the morals that I have today, personally, was or is a lot of the morals that were there within the Christian religion. And I imagine I have friends that their morals come from their Muslim religion, which is no different than whatever. Anything that does good for humanity is a good thing. So don't allow your religion to be hijacked. Continuing. Mass communication. Let me continue. This is my humble opinion, irrespective of everybody's religion. Okay? Mass communication, easy travel, and the fusion of all the political isms with it have allowed the weaponization of religion. America has its own Taliban. Don't let anybody fool you. Not because you have Christian behind the name of your religion means you're not as theocratic as the Taliban or any other religion that is inflicting pain on humanity. If you're inflicting pain on humanity, whether it is through policy or through bombs or through the combination of them, it is bad. The Taliban is more refined. So here it goes. It said, mass communication, the internet, telephones, everything, easy travel. You can get from one place to the other place in less than a day in just about any part of this world today. And the fusion of all the political isms. What do I mean by the fusion of all the political isms? The fusion of all the political isms is how we got the entrenchment of politics into religion in the form that we have it today. We have a plutocracy that has infiltrated religion using the tenets of the Powell Manifesto to actually use these people that are controllable because, and I'll explain a little bit about that when I play the Billy Graham interview with Don Lemon last night. But they use these cues to control people. It is always easy to use a church to do evil. Churches do good, but it's very easy to have a church that does evil. The weaponization of religion. America has its own Taliban, if even more refined for Western tastes. So yes, our Taliban doesn't wear capes or doesn't look funny to Americans, just like the Taliban doesn't look funny for the folks in Afghanistan. It may look funny to us. When I say funny, I mean different. To them, it does not. To us, it does. Our Taliban looks funny to them. Don't worry, but we have our own Taliban. The Daily Kos publisher Markos Moulitsas wrote the book The American Taliban that took a few hits, but highlight some of these issues as well. So if you get a chance, there is a link to it in the blog post as well. You should check out Markos's book called The American Taliban. And he wrote it, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago, but it's all of this stuff is still very relevant. In fact, it has more relevancy today, much because of having the evangelicals vote in a block to elect likely the most evil president to date. And you just have to kind of study some presidents that we considered bad and see how this one ranks. The only thing holding this guy back is that he doesn't have certain kinds of people right now that he can throw out. But let's just look at the way he wants to treat foreigners. How different is that than Andrew Jackson and the Trail of Tears, right? So folks, let's go ahead and be clear about what we stand for and what we believe in. Today we will dissect an interview between CNN's Don Lemon and Reverend Frank Graham, you know, Billy Graham's son, who has turned into one of the most hypocritical right-wing. I don't name call. Anybody who watches my show knows I'm very careful not to name call. This is a difficult one for me, not to have name called this guy with a very large pejorative, but I won't. But anyway, the idea is to illustrate not only the hypocrisy of right-wing evangelicals, but the danger they present. And I say the danger they present. I mean, I don't mean that. I really don't want to hit on the pew very hard. I don't want this to be sort of an attack on the people, because the idea behind religion is you have your pastor, and your pastor has the pew. The pastor has the followers, the sheep. And where we should have the attack, if you will, is mostly on the leaders, because based on the tenets of the religions, what we have is these guys almost or the pew almost responsible of following their leaders. Anyhow, folks, this is a call-in show. Again, as I said before, that number is going to be 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Likewise, I want to ask you to go ahead and like the page on Facebook, Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies, and follow Egberto Willies on Twitter, if you will, when these other programs come in, or when we're trying to weaponize something to get fast action. My Twitter feed as well will be involved. So folks, what are your thoughts? Let us talk. Tag your tweets with Politics Done Right as your hashtag. And again, follow Egberto Willies. But I know you know what time it is.
It's time for the WeBlog blog post.
All right. This is an interesting weekly blog post, and I am not yet sure how to fuse it in with the videos, because I want to get it in. And what happens is the way I do my my blog of the week is I write the blog for people to read back on their own or whatever. But it so happened that this one is intertwined with an interview from Don Lemon, which I found Don Lemon. I am not a fan of Don Lemon all of the times. There are times that Don Lemon gets me pretty darn upset. But lately, and it's not only Don Lemon, lately, many of our cable folks are starting to get scared. What they're noticing is, you know where people say at first they came to you and, you thought, well, that's not me, so I'm not worried. I came for another friend. That's not me. I'm not worried. But then guess what? They came for me, and there was nobody there to help me out. I don't remember how to say these phrases the right kind of way, but you get where I'm coming from. Anyway, the title is CNN's Don Lemon Nails Reverend Franklin Graham on Evangelicals Trump Hypocrisy. And, it seems the cable networks are finally ready to channel the outright evil and hypocrisy of a large sect of evangelicals. Don Lemon, like an experienced lawyer, reduced Reverend Franklin Graham to a stuttering ignoramus. Ignoramus not as a pejorative, just to mean that he seemed pretty darn ignorant. Lemon brought out the Reverend and his cohort hypocrisy and lack of moral authority, which has reduced them to a mere joke. You know, I mean, we are calling, you know, somebody like me look at Graham as a joke. The problem, it's a dangerous joke. And that is what we have to remember. Lemons cross-examined Franklin Graham with tonality and sure-headedness that made evangelicals' support for the president a respect-ending proposition. And what I want to do is I want to start you with that interview. And check this out.
The president's supposed to be a role model for all?
Well, you certainly want him to be a role model. But he's a businessman. He's not a politician. And so this is new territory for him. And I believe he's all of us.
Are you saying business people don't have morals as well, Reverend?
No.
And they shouldn't have standards? But you're saying he's a businessman, not a politician. He's the president of the United States.
He's a businessman, and when he's in business meetings, he talks a certain way, and he's trying to get the point across. But Don, I believe Donald Trump is a good man, and I believe he's president of the United States for a reason. I think God put him there. He offended everybody, just like you said. He did everything wrong as a candidate, and he won. And I don't understand it, other than I think God put him there. And Don, listen, all of us are sinners, you and me, and Donald Trump, there's a lot that we can do to improve. Donald Trump is not perfect. He's not President Perfect. And I believe that when President comes down the road, we'll vote for him.
Now, that is near the end that I played first.
Why do you think evangelical?
And what I want to do is I'll go ahead and start it from the beginning. And the reason I want to show this part from the beginning and then go back over what he said on the end. But I wanted to play the end first for you to digest something. Notice what he said on the end. Donald Trump did everything wrong, and he somehow still became president. And the reason then that they believe he's of God is, how can somebody have been so screwed up and become president? I don't want to talk about that quite yet. I just want everybody listening to that to digest that thought process first. Now, here's the beginning of how that interview went. I'm assuming this is going to work correctly now.
Call out, say, Bill Clinton's behavior, but not President Trump's.
I think that's a very good question, Don, and I appreciate that. The difference is what happened with Bill Clinton. He did this while he was in office, and that's the difference. And what Kennedy did, the affairs he had while he was in office, the affairs that Johnson had while he was in office, these alleged affairs, they're alleged with Trump, didn't happen while he was in office. This happened 11, 12, 13, 14 years ago. And so I think there's a big difference. And not that we give anybody a pass, but we have to look at the timeline. And that was before he was in office. And I think the president has changed quite a bit in the last 11 years. At least I have seen that.
Well, let's say that.
I think there's a maturing of the president.
Okay. Have you read his Twitter account? Because listen.
Now listen to that. First of all, what he does, and this is a typical right-wing thing, right? They're talking about the intransigence or the things that Donald Trump has done. And immediately Franklin Graham, who's supposed to be the man of the Lord, right? He's not supposed to be a partisan or anything like that. The first thing he does is he goes ahead and he brings out Clinton, Johnson, and Kennedy. By the way, for those people who follow politics, what do those politicians have in common? They're all Democratic presidents. Of course, he never brought in any history about Bush 1. He didn't bring in any history about Reagan. Reagan was no saint either. He didn't bring in any history. And in fact, Reagan was divorced and married again, like something that the church usually frowns on, right? And he didn't bring up Nixon. He didn't bring up, it was Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, then Carter. Well, everybody knows Carter is a saint. So there's nothing anybody can actually put on Carter. Carter is like a divine... a person, a divine kind of guy that does absolutely nothing immoral. Well, that's how it kind of comes across. So that is what Graham does. The first thing he does is he deflects. He tries to make it look as if, wait a minute, all these other guys did it while they were in office. And you know what? Donald Trump was not in office. So is it okay? Well, that is not even what Don Lemon was getting at. And here's how Don Lemon continues. Let's see. Go ahead, Don.
A number of different things there. What he admitted to was the Access Hollywood tape, right? That happened. It came out. You were already supporting him when that came out. You didn't take your support away.
But I didn't support that. Don. I didn't support that.
But you're saying one voice that you didn't support that, but you're still supporting him. And then also the payout to the porn star. That was in 2016. That wasn't 11 years ago. That's now. Threatened nuclear war with North Korea.
Story came out.
He calls for a ban on religions entering the country. That's now. He has 15 accusers. Some of them said it was shorter than a long time ago, as you said. He started a fight with the Gold Star family. He started a fight with Gold Star widows. He fights with people on Twitter. He uses the word asshole about certain countries. That's all in the current timing now. That's not from years ago. So that argument that he has changed or he's somehow evolved, that just doesn't stand. Most people don't see that.
Well, no, but the affairs that Clinton had while he was in the Oval Office.
Notice he stays with that.
Same thing.
There are more disproportionate characters than fair. You're saying that the only thing that matters is an affair?
No. That's what you spend a lot of time on the media focusing on this. But you take his rough language. There's a lot of presidents that have had rough language, and a lot of these things that have been accused of the president. I'm not sure. He says he didn't do it. And
notice he said he didn't do it. We have the president that is the Lord. He is by far the president that has lied the most to this country in that first year. You know, we've have all kind of numbers to prove that. They selectively choose to believe what he has to say. Continuing, and then and by the way, 281, I'll come back to you on the answer your call.
He didn't do it.
So does that make it right because someone else is a sinner, someone else uses bad language, and this president uses bad language? Does that make it right? You shouldn't excuse the behavior from any president. Isn't the president supposed to be a role model for all?
Well, you certainly want him to be a role model. But he's a businessman. He's not a politician. And so this is new territory for him. And I believe he's all of us.
Are you saying business people don't have morals as well, Reverend?
No.
And they shouldn't have standards? But you're saying is a businessman not a politician? He's the president of the United States.
He's a businessman, and when he's in business meetings, he talks a certain way, and he's trying to get the point across. But Don, I believe Donald Trump is a good man. I believe he's president of the United States for a reason. I think God put him there.
Now, the reason I talk about religion being a danger is that when a Reverend Graham says, the reason he's there is because God puts him there, and he tells his sheep that God put him there. How do you argue about that? For those people who believe in the Bible, for those people who believe that your reverend is the leader of your flock, pretty much ordained by God, when he says that God put Trump there, how do you argue against that? It gets even deeper than that, because by making that claim, we cannot, activists like myself, liberals, progressive, I have to look at the humanity within every individual and understand that given the tenets of religion and given the way it works, I cannot hate those people who are simply following the tenets of their religion outright, other than trying to educate them that somehow at that point they need to break with their leader, not necessarily with their religion, with their leader, that their leader is corrupt, that their leader is leading them through a bad path like a Jim Jones or somebody else. And that is a thin line that we all have to cross. But the danger within religion is when these pastors are out there, and I have relatives and I have many others who are buying the crap that these guys are selling, that somehow this president is divine. This president was sent by God. How comes they never said Obama was divine, Obama was sent by God? Given what's occurring today, it is absolutely clear that the complete psyche of this country was not ready to have a black man as a president. He made it. His presidency would seem to be a better candidate for a divine presidency than a Trump. There's nothing special about Trump winning. There's something extraordinary about Obama winning. When you have, and I always say this, and I'll ask you to just kind of keep nice with my words, but when you go to Pennsylvania and somebody asks, are you going to vote for President Obama, are you going to vote for Senator Obama? And the person turns around and say, oh yes, I am going to vote. I'm definitely voting for the N-man. You know what, the N-word man. That tells you there was something special there. I don't call it divine or anything like that. I just say America wanted a change. When it came to Trump played the cards right, and evangelicals with the block supporting that they had without any restrictions on morals made it occur. Phone number 281. I'm coming to you in a second. I just want to play another piece here. This one has to do with an admonition. This is one evangelical pastor admonishing the what we call now, well, he says it the right way. He's the one who's competent enough to say it. So let me play that.
True Orthodox evangelicals would not be supporting Roy Moore or this extremism in what I call Republican religionism. It's not the Orthodox evangelicalism. They try to hijack that term. White evangelicalism is connected to white nationalism, is connected to white supremacy. It is the backbone of racism that has happened in this country. Now, you understand that white nationalism, white supremacy that promotes racism is twisted. And so this notion of white evangelical values is twisted anyway, because so-called white evangelicals, I call them Republican religionists, extreme Republican religionists, are culprits in the moral defenses, because they've given him and so many others cover on so many other non-Christian policies, like blocking health care is a non-Christian policy. Blocking living wages is a non-Christian policy. Blocking and suppressing voting rights is a non-Christian policy. Hating gay people and is a non-Christian policy. Promoting guns is a non-Christian policy. And so if you embolden these people by giving them support and trying to call their support on those issues Christian, then it should not surprise us that they're emboldened in this issue. So now you have people trying to compare this with Jesus and the Virgin Mary, and saying that he's under some spiritual attack, like Jesus was under spiritual attack, and he's in a spiritual battle. Well, a real spiritual battle would be addressing the fact that nearly, in some counties in Alabama, 40% of the people in poverty. There are 24% of children living in households that are poverty. That's policy pedophilia. When you're hurting children and not addressing that, it's one of the lowest states in public education. You've got nearly 900,000 people in poverty, 20% of no health insurance. Those are the things that Christians should be dealing with if they were dealing with Orthodox evangelicalism. This is heretical, it's hypocritical, it's a term that they have hijacked.
Okay, for some reason
True Orthodox evangelicals would not be supporting Roy Moore or this extremism in what I call Republican.
What Reverend Barber had to say. He was pretty much calling what is going on within the evangelical, this sect of evangelicalism, nothing more than a white nationalist party, with a few stooges being members of it as well. And when I say stooges, I say that respectfully, meaning these are people who bought into it or were led to buy into it. I have another piece to play, but what I'll do before I get into that is go to the phones. Folks, the number is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. I would love to hear from you, and I'll go to the Facebook and get some of your messages as well. But anyhow, 281, you're on the line. Come on in.
Hello, Alberto.
Yes, this is Egberto speaking.
I agree with you completely. I'm calling. I was just listening to your voice through the phone because on the Facebook, the voices are like dubbed over each other. Like when Don Lemon's speaking or when Franklin's speaking, it's like they're speaking echo. Like
okay. Well, got to fix that.
And then I didn't get any sound at all. But I had the phone, and your lips pretty much were in sync with what I'm hearing or seeing. I was just calling because. From 1972, I attended the Campus Crusade for Christ, and it's been 45 years, and so much has changed. And you say people leave their leader. Really, it took me till the 1980s at the church I was attending to realize this is not, this is not what I grew up thinking. This is not my idea of. A rally that I've attended and churches in the Vineyard and places I've been. So at this time, I think that when they have a double standard for Trump, and you're asking, why do evangelists believe he's divine?
Right.
That's the part that I think. It's almost like saying God creates cancer, but it's our human choices that we are responsible for. I mean, it's this. We have a will. We have We have a free will. So when we go down this path to cancer, and we discover a lot of men in this age get kidney cancer, or they get prostate cancer, or women get the breast cancer. These are all things that a lot is our own choice, our own responsibility to live well and healthy. I know people get sick, barring that, but
yeah, no, I'm not going to
say that God.
Right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, to say that God has ordained, or somehow Trump is a divine, is just like saying cancer is.
I get, yeah.
God made cancer.
I get what you're saying now.
And a lot of people now are moving away from that, and they're atheists. Well, I've met a lot of people that were Christians and that are now atheists because they don't believe if there's a God, why did the Holocaust happen?
Right.
That wasn't something.
Well, I don't take it that far, right? I accept that there's a lot that I don't know. And even with religion, I accept that there's a lot that I don't know. Humanism is for me because I accept that I don't know certain things, and I am not willing to have some man, which is usually some man, telling me that he somehow, because of the studies he's made with, let's say, whatever, ordains him to tell me how to live my life, etc. At the same time, I've taken a whole lot of my values from Christianity. Now, as far as you're concerned about health and so forth, look, I agree with you. I mean, a lot of health problems occur because of choices, but there are a whole lot of things that we also don't understand of choices. Why some people can smoke and not get cancer, and others smoke and get cancer. I mean, there's a whole lot of things. We know that we know probabilities of things. We don't necessarily know the science of all things. But what is your name, ma'am?
This is Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Hold one second, my friend. How you doing, Elizabeth? All right, let's see.
Well, I am just listening to your program like I have before, but the Facebook kind of was
echoey,
sketchy. So
I have to. This is a new product that we're using here, Wirecast, and for some reason there are times that it switches back into a mode that create those echoes. So for those that are listening, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to put you on hold, Elizabeth, and let me get to 612. 612, you're live on the air. How can I help you?
Yes, good afternoon, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely, sir.
I just wanted to say, yes, sir. I just wanted to say I was as someone who I used to be a very far left progressive, and at the time I was an atheist.
Yes.
And when I became a born again Christian in 2009, and when that happened, I also politically I became very conservative as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when it comes to identifying why evangelicals, vote the way they do or why they associate with certain groups,
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of them, it's always been a choice of the lesser of two evils,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately. Like if you take, for example, Clinton and Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Clinton was advocating for things that no Christian with clear conscience could support.
Okay.
Like the idea of partial birth abortion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like antithetical. The idea that a baby could, you could have a baby that actually would come out of the womb, be alive, and still perform an abortion on, or actually end the life of it. I mean, there was no one, and especially the last debate when the issue of abortion, in the 9th month
Mm-hmm.
of pregnancy.
Let me stop you for one quick second, my friend. I just want to
justify that.
I don't want to interrupt you or anything because I want you to say your piece, and you must be free to say your piece on my program. Anybody can call and say whatever they want. Now, let me just say that it is truly, and this has been factually debunked, that somehow a 9-month abortion with a baby coming out, that somehow liberals believe all of that. I want to also clarify one thing when it comes to abortion. That's one issue, but I just want to clarify it. I'm a left-wing liberal. I don't like abortions. I would prefer if my daughter didn't have abortions. What I think, and preachers do a whole lot to lie to you guys to try to tell you what's really happening here. You are a Christian, is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're a Christian. I respect that. Now, you have your beliefs, is that correct?
Yep.
Now, I also have my beliefs, and I am also a citizen of this country. You belong to a church. You belong to something that makes you whole, and that is fine. And in your church, you do not believe in abortions. You do not believe in a whole lot of things. You also don't believe in some things that I believe in. But the truth of the matter is, I am not going to stop you as a free citizen in this United States to not be able to exercise the things that you believe in as long as it doesn't have an impact on me. And I think when it comes to the right to choose, or when it comes to what I really call pro-life, I don't call anti-abortionists pro-life. I call anti-abortionists exactly that, anti-abortionists. You don't like abortion. Pro-life are people who support policies that support people, policies that make life better for the living, policies that make people better people, more progressive people, more people that move ahead. Now, as it turns out, by us having a country that says a woman has the right to choose, it is then your job as a Christian, if you think that is all wrong, to work with those women who are about to choose an abortion and try to make your belief theirs. That's what choice is really about. Choice is not about you saying abortion is right or wrong, or abortion is illegal or illegal, and that's the problem we have today. And that is what I think even most Christians believe. Most Christians would believe that I hate abortion, but it's not my right, and especially the right of men, which are the ones who pass these laws, to look at a woman. A baby is not only a life. A baby is also an economic choice. And a lot of the problems left-wing liberals like myself have with Christians that are conservative Christians is that they fight like hell to try for that baby not to be aborted. And when that baby comes into the fold, the last thing they want to do is provide programs that support that baby, which is the real abortion. Because a dying, living baby with a soul, a kid who starves, a kid who can't go to school, a kid who doesn't have the wherewithal to move ahead in society, knows that is happening to him or her. A baby that we don't know scientifically. You may feel you do know. You could be. I mean, I don't know. But I will accept ignorance here. And my ignorance tells me that I would rather err on the side of a woman than to err on the side of a man who's promoting religion in his eyes. Don't you see what we're saying here,
okay,
sir?
here's a simple question.
Yes.
What would be the cutoff time for?
Did I
abortion,
admit that I was ignorant?
Would you say 3 months?
I think I am.
No, I'm just asking you a
sir,
simple question.
Sir, it's a simple question with a complex answer, and a complex answer is I don't know. But here's what I do know.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let me make it easier for you because we brought up science. So science obviously does a great deal in allowing us to see what a fetus looks like at different times of the pregnancy.
Yes, it does.
So, for example, you don't have to take my opinion for it. You could look up right now on your phone. You could look up what a fetus looks like at 20
I've seen them all, sir. I mean, let me tell you this.
Example.
Sir,
No,
I've seen all the videos.
I'm trying to say, ask you a simple question is this. Is when is the cutoff point?
I don't know.
Either because the issue we had during the last election is that there was a lot of liberals. You may not be one of those, but there were a lot of liberals that were saying there shouldn't be a cutoff point at all.
I don't know.
That was actually being brought up.
Let me tell you what.
The argument of late-term abortion.
By the way, my friend, what's your name? Because I don't want to just say whatever. Just give me a first name or something.
Oh, Michael.
Michael, let me tell you something, Michael. And this is what I would like you to understand and why I want you to listen to my programs, share my programs to people in your sphere. In other words, I want conservatives listening to this program too. I mean, that's why you're not going to hear me insulting or anything like that. What I'm going to try to do is talk. And here's the problem. I don't know, okay? I honestly don't know what the time is. It's above my pay grade. But the thing about it that I have with folks that are, with some folks in religion, is that they make these absolute statements as if they are sure. Are you sure? I mean, you can say that you're sure. That doesn't make it so. And the other point that I brought up about caring about the fetus, but not caring about the human that is born and that is moving ahead in life, is no. I mean, if you care,
why do you assume that we don't care for the human that's born? You're making the assumption.
No. Here's
that we don't.
No. Let me tell you what the assumption is. It's not an assumption. It's a fact in this matter. And let me explain what I mean by a fact. If I am trying to pass certain programs in Congress, let's say here in Texas as an example, okay? Are you here in Texas? No, you're not. You're a 612 number. But anyhow, here in Texas, we had Obamacare was passed. A lot of evangelicals, for some reason, don't like Obamacare. Now, the reality is, that's okay.
Because it's a bridge to full government health care, which we know, as anyone who studied history knows, that was the key step for the Marxists to be able to
I know Reagan made
their ideology.
Reagan did make a record that said that.
No, it's not Reagan.
Sir, but I listened. I listened to you, right?
All the way back, but
I listened to you.
The point I'm trying to make to you.
No, sir, wait. Let's do one at a time. One at a time. I respect you. Please respect me. I respect when you speak. Please respect me as well.
I've listened to you the majority of the time.
No, but again, I need to come back to your. Guess why, sir? Let me ask you, just for my sake, because like I said, I want everybody on this program. I want everybody listening. Try not to come with a mind that is definitely not going to change, because there's something you could tell me that could change my mind. Okay, what doesn't change my mind is if we are both talking over each other. Now, you asked a specific question and I wanted to give you a specific answer. And then after I give you that specific answer, you can come back at me. You spoke about Obamacare. I spoke about Obamacare and what they did with it in Texas. They did not allow the Medicaid expansion to Obamacare. All right? The Medicaid expansion to Obamacare for the first 3 years came at a zero cost to the state. Their presumption is, well, when it's no longer a zero cost, it's going to be only 10% of the cost. When it's no longer a zero cost, it'll cost the state money, so we don't do it at all. In that process, A&M made a study to show how many, I think it was A&M or some one of these universities, how many people, because of the lack of attaining that insurance, would die. And the number here in Texas was about 2,000 something per year would die for something that all the Congress had to do is say, we'll take it for at least the first 3 years. That's all they had to do. They didn't. That is, you asked me a specific question. Your specific question was, how do you know we don't care? Well, if a program can save 2,000 lives and you say no, it's either you don't care or you don't understand. Now, secondly, you brought up another issue, another question that I'd like to answer that you brought up.
First of all, you'd have to question the legitimacy of the study.
Exactly. Sir, you're absolutely.
You're acting like there's no.
No. You're absolutely no. But you're correct. No, you are correct, sir. You are correct. You have to ask about the legitimacy of the study, just like I have to ask about the legitimacy of that study that I gave you with 2,000 people. You have to ask yourself about the legitimacy of the studies that you use as well. If you've listened to my shows about the Powell Manifesto, about the Heritage Foundation, and so forth, where I give the evidence for all these particular issues and how there is a definite intent to mislead the right, I have put those in black and white on my website. It gives you an objective place to go and look, and not only to look at what I'm giving you, but to look at other places to corroborate whether I am full of it or not. You see, what I want from right-wingers, like I'm assuming you're a right-winger, you're probably not, but whatever. What I want from you guys is a conversation. I want a conversation based on equal facts. In other words, we can sit down and have a cup of coffee, and we can say, okay, Berto, this is right. Okay, but you see what I'm saying? That's what I want. I don't want to sit down there and you talk over me. Go ahead.
No, I understand, but I just want to say one thing, how there's two things we have to establish. First and foremost,
yes,
we have to separate certain issues.
Sure.
Like economic policies.
Definitely.
How we view, spending, how the budget, all that is separate.
I agree.
We talk about things like abortion or homosexuality,
right,
gay marriage, things of that nature. What we have to come to an understanding is you and I have two different worldviews.
Exactly.
Your worldview believes in the idea of moral relativism, right? That morality is relative, that it's the construct of the human mind, and so forth. As a Christian, we believe that morality is absolute and objective, that it comes from God.
Okay.
Now, I used to be an atheist, and I used to be very progressive, so I understand a lot of your perspectives. I used to have those same views.
Yeah.
But that's where the separation comes when we talked about abortion, because you brought up the issue of, it's the woman's choice and so forth, which I understand and I respect. I used to have the same view.
Fine.
But as someone who believes that morality is absolute, that does not come from man, but it comes from God,
and
the question now becomes, is that a human life, and are we exterminating a human life? We're not talking about removing a
No, I get it.
We're not talking about removing,
I get it. But you know what, sir? Suppose I formed a religion, right? Suppose I formed a religion that said, I was going to use an example, but it was too poignant. But suppose I had a religion that said something else that you don't believe, but I say, according to the religion, I believe it is absolute. And that's what I try to get a lot of people on the right to understand. It's not necessary for you to agree with it. What you have to do is, a lot of people on the right talk a whole lot about freedom. What we have to be responsible to do is allow that freedom. And not only that, if that freedom really exists, Michael, if that freedom really exists, it should not be difficult for you as a Christian who has these strong beliefs to show other folks that that's what it's all about, and that is right. Now, I was a Christian. I'm the reverse from you. I was born into Christianity, and I've seen all the things that have occurred, not only in Christianity, a lot of other religions, and that's why I never turned away from knowing that I am too little to not know there's a supreme being or some supreme force that created everything. I believe that, but I am humble enough to know that I just don't know. And when I have a pastor or a reverend or somebody coming out there trying to tell me, well, they know the way, and half the times these guys themselves, when you find out deep into their lives, they are some of the most confused people on the planet. I am sorry, that's not divine. But for those, again, I have relatives and families who follow that, and that's fine. The thing about it, the thing that I say that we have to fight against, liberals, progressives, and everybody, is for people to come into the fold and say, you just have to do things my way, because I am a Christian of this particular faith. This is how we say things are right, and things must be done this way. Whereas I say, good old Christian, whatever sect you are, feel free to do as you please with your sect. With the people that follow you, with the people that are a part of you, do whatever you want. Just don't force other people to do it. That's all. And this is not, you call it some sort of a relativism of morality.
You're being hypocritical.
How is that, please? Tell me, how am I being hypocritical?
People on the left have no problem. Many people on the left and many people who are secular have absolutely no problem imposing their worldviews on our society.
How is that, sir? Give me an example of a worldview. No, let me ask you. No, I am asking for specifics.
Like gay marriage, for example. Gay marriage isn't one.
Yes.
And look at how homosexuality is being treated in our society. Now, if I were to come out and say that homosexuality is an immoral behavior,
can I say something? Let me tell you something. I'm gonna agree with you in some instances. Some of my liberal friends gonna knock me out. I just think sometimes, and I'll be frank, just like you have crazy right-wing people, you have crazy left-wing people. A lot of times, and I call it out. I'm a writer at Daily Kos, and I get called out like you would not imagine, because sometimes what I say they don't like because it doesn't follow the liberal tenet, even though I'm more liberal than most of them there. Here's the issue. You are correct that, look, if you don't like homosexuals, if you don't like black people, if you don't like whatever, you have that choice. The things that I care about are policies, things that affect my life. I want you to be able to have whatever the hell you want to do, as long as it doesn't affect me. As long as it doesn't affect me, you can. And we have to have right-wingers and liberals alike to do that. Now, I'm the type of person that I like everybody. Hell, I get hell because I also like you guys, right-wingers. Most of the people I live around are right-wingers, okay? And you guys are just as nice as anybody else when we don't get on particular subjects. Unlike that, I do get on the particular subjects because I think as a mature society, we have to get to the point where we can have a conversation, where we can talk, where we can break bread, where we can drink together. And I want to come to the day when I can say, look, Michael, you're full of it, man. Hey, what do you think about the baseball game? That's where we need to get as a society. When we get there, we can move forward. Michael, I'm getting kind of getting close on time. Anything else you want to do for a quick comment, sir?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you again for taking my call. And I love the topic you brought up and the different points you brought up. And I'll just end with this. I think at the end of the day, we have to remember this is still a representative democracy.
Mm-hmm.
We all have the right to vote our views and what
yes.
we vote to. So just as much as you on the left and people who have your worldview get to vote whatever their values are, whatever they believe in, the same applies for us on the other side. And I just feel like sometimes people on the left feel like it's a crime to vote conservative, and somehow we're doing something evil by voting conservative, when in reality, according to your own worldview, that morality is relative. You guys have no basis by which to judge anybody else whether if they being good or bad.
You've heard my show. You've heard me.
On the other hand, we do. We have an objective standard to point to. So ultimately, I don't understand why anyone on the left would object to anyone. Anyone does, because you have no basis of doing it.
Actually, no. I think you heard my basis. You heard my basis. My basis was the following. My basis was when the policies that you promote, that you want under your tenets, affect me, then at that point, objectively, it affects me. So again, I really want you to separate that.
Morality is relative. Remember, sir.
No. I never.
Morality is relative. You have to be consistent.
No. I am very, very consistent. In other words, if you do something that affects my well-being, at that point it comes. But we're coming to the end of the show, Michael. I want you to keep listening. I hope you'll share my show, so because I need this to enter the because you are within the conservative and right-wing sphere, I need that in there as well. Because I want you guys to come out, and I want us to have that kind of conversation, because this is how we actually move forward. Because we're not going to move forward separately at all, period. Can't happen, punto final. We can't do it. So I hope you'll share my stuff. I hope you'll come back and at a time when we can maybe have a longer conversation as well. All right, brother?
All right. Thank you, sir. You have a good day.
You have a good day now. Thank you for the call. All right, folks, we are coming to the end of the show. I actually enjoyed that conversation with Michael, because I think Michael was honest in his beliefs. And, well, you guys know I'm honest in mine. Before I go real quick, let me kind of read some of these things. Don't like abortion, don't get one. Agreed. Live your life, exactly. Love your life.
90
let's see if
seconds.
there's anything else before I got to go. But that was a good conversation, and I didn't want to leave that conversation. Let's see. Let's go a little bit further here in my list of topics or people calling in. Let's see. Tom Hines, school lunch programs cut. Exactly. That's what I was trying to explain to him. Don't care about DACA children. That's also, and we can't say that though, folks. 80% of Americans want DACA kids taken care of. So that has to include right-wingers as well when you get to 80%.
Seconds.
Okay, folks, look, thank you so kindly for listening to the show. Please remember, share these shows widely, because this is how we're going to make a difference in this society. You make a difference by what you do. And I'd like to have more of you calling in. As you can see, we have good conversation, and you dictate the topic. I didn't get to play my last video, which I wanted to play, but you know what? It is your show. You dictate what's going to happen. Thank you so kindly. Do remember, when you get a chance, feel free to donate to the show as well. Let's keep these things viable. You guys have a wonderful day.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.